Okay, everyone, Wednesday morning and the day of the big game. I just got a really bad echo in my ear, but nothing's put me off today because I'm buzzing, guys. John, how are you feeling?
The big day is here. The morning is here. It's going to feel a long day until the team news is announced, a long day until kickoff. But, I think we've waited for this for a long time. I think the messages coming out of the Celtic camp are positive, and I think there's a genuine feeling of belief and obvious confidence with caveats. There's a logic to all of this that might not inspire lots of confidence, but I think that the hope and belief of a big occasion like this is going to take over that. Is it, for me anyway, Hamish? I'm not sure about you guys.
Yeah. I don't want logic today. Don't want any of that nonsense. I want belief, and I want to see it from all of you legends that are tuning in, like Joe and Francis and Gary. How are you all feeling? Who's tipping it for a famous night? Josh, what you reckoning? It's good to have you on. What are you thinking? It could be a famous night?
It could be. It could is the key word. I feel like a kid waking up on Christmas morning. It's a massive game tonight. Celtic's biggest game since arguably the last 16 time Juventus in 2013. So a massive opportunity for the players to really make themselves legends, I would say. And listen, I think the Bayern team is there to be got at. We'll get onto that later on, I'm sure. But there is a genuine sense of optimism.
He can come back anytime he wants. Bayern are there to be got at. That's the kind of chat we need. Yeah, looking forward to it. John has better hair than Jota. That's a good start. Paul is...
yeah. I think delirium's kicked in early there, Hamish.
Okay, McLaughlin P's got us down for a 3-2-1. Okay, the job of us today is to let you know everything you need to know ahead of tonight's game. Ideally, get you totally up for what we're going to see. We had press conferences yesterday, John. Was there anything notable going on there?
Just that, sometimes in these pre-match press conferences, you can get a bit of, the sound bites can take over. But I do genuinely feel like Brendan Rodgers has positioned the players in a place where they feel like they can have a real go at this game tonight, and that's really, the least you can ask for. Celtic obviously go into this game as underdogs. I think that's clear, but the players need to believe, and we've said this time and again. But if the players don't believe, then nothing positive is going to happen tonight. But I just have the feeling that Celtic have this, and they have this in the palm of their hand tonight. They're going to go into Celtic Park backed by 60,000 supporters, and I think they're really going to have a go at Bayern. Whether that turns out well or not, that's up to the fate of the Champions League at this level. And we know how devastating opposition teams can be. We know how ruthless opposition teams can be. But Celtic will at least start this game, I think, positioned after this 8-game run in the league phase, feeling confident, feeling with a spring in their step, feeling like Bayern, like Josh said, are there to be got at. I think the supporters feel like that too, and I think that kind of synergy is going to be so important tonight. Brendan Rodgers talked about it again, and that was really just the messaging from the Celtic camp is positive for me. Like, there's nothing there that they're saying that I'm like, oh, that's not great. They're the thing that Rodgers said, and I know you picked up on this, Hamish, is that he noted that he doesn't want Celtic Park just to be a place that opposition players come to enjoy. He wants opposition teams to hurt at Celtic Park. He used the word hurt, and he wants Bayern Munich to hurt tonight. And I thought that was interesting, and a kind of change in tone that we might have had from some years gone by in this tournament. Celtic Park shouldn't be a tourist destination for the superstar elite of European football. It should be a place where they suffer, and hopefully that's the attitude that everyone at Celtic Park has tonight.
I agree totally with that. I think the fans in general make an amazing atmosphere in these games, but I hope it's a real hostile atmosphere as well. And I know you can make the comments about Bayern possibly not being affected by all of that stuff, but make it hostile, make it uncomfortable for Bayern, and you never know what can happen. Josh, we do have a brilliant home record recently. That's the thing. Like, it's not like maybe 2017 when we played Bayern and you were kind of hopeful, but our record wasn't great. I mean, you look at the last, is it 6 unbeaten at home or 5 unbeaten? It's a good record we've got.
Yeah, it stretches all the way back to that Lazio game, and even in that game it was very close, and it was a last minute winner, which was only 5 minutes before Celtic looked like they were going to win the game that night. So I think the home record is very positive, particularly under the manager now. Since he's come back, he's only lost 1 European game at home. So and not just in Europe, but in general, the home form has been terrific under Rodgers since he's returned to the club. So that's a massive positive, and it is, I would argue, moulding into a bit of a fortress again, and it's what a lot of fans have been looking for a number of years. Like, you had the days where PSG were rocking up and scoring 5 goals, Barcelona were winning comfortably, and other European teams, Leipzig, were even winning comfortably a couple of years ago. But now it's definitely turning into a fortress, I would argue, a bit more hostile, a bit more the sense that teams are fearing coming to Celtic Park, and that's exactly what you want. Like you said, John, you don't want teams to be coming to Celtic Park happily and listen to "You'll Never Walk Alone," then go out and score 3 goals and win the game. One thing I would say as well, that the positivity surrounding the home form should also be coupled with Bayern's poor away form in Europe. They played 4 league phase games away from home, and they only won 1 of them. That was against Shakhtar Donetsk. So I think
they lost 3.
I think they did lose 3. They definitely lost to Feyenoord, Barcelona, and then they lost to Aston Villa as well. So they did lose 3. So they've not been the best on the road in Europe this season. And I think that, coupled with Celtic's good home form, could make for perhaps something special.
I knew there was a reason we had Josh on tonight, Hamish. I don't know this one, and I knew there was a reason. He's getting me up for the game, so I hope he's getting everyone else up for the game too.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I read actually earlier that Bayern have never lost 4 away matches in Europe in 1 season. So obviously they've done 3, but yeah, it's a really tough tie, John. We know that. We all know what's to come next week. It's kind of easy maybe to forget there's a second leg a wee bit because we're so focused on tonight. Next week's going to be incredibly difficult. Tonight's going to be hard, but tonight we have the things that we like. We have Celtic Park rocking. All of like the players are used to this, the surface, all of those things in our advantage, and you know that could be really important because we have at home in Europe this season been really good, really difficult to stop.
And I think Bayern are actually aware of that as well. I think Manuel Neuer's press conference, he kind of noted that there might be a few uncomfortable moments for them early. I think they're coming realising that tonight will be a difficult game. I don't think they're taking Celtic for granted here. I don't think it's a situation, when Real Madrid turned up a couple of years ago, and I just felt like they're obviously well worth beating Celtic, but they kind of turned up with a kind of attitude of we just need to impose our game. I feel like Bayern Munich are showing a lot of respect, and I think we might see that in their performance. I think it could be, a little bit of a cagey opening from them particularly, and I think they'll try and see what the atmosphere is like, what the conditions are like before really having a go at Celtic. But again, they're also well aware that if they build up possession and they build up pressure on Celtic, then that can be difficult to deal with. But what I would say as well is I think Celtic's big weaknesses in defence in the Champions League this season has kind of been those counter-pressing opportunities where we've maybe overcommitted and left too big a gap. But I think if Celtic are organised and stay disciplined, then I think there's a chance that we could frustrate Bayern in that possession. If they've got a lot of the ball, I think there's a better chance that Celtic can frustrate them in those scenarios rather than them picking us off, which I think is where that transition is still Celtic's big weakness at this level, I would suggest.
I think it's going to be quite an open game. Maybe you might be right at the start of the game, maybe not, but they're clearly going to come out and try and win the game. High backline could do space for us to run into. And yeah, we're clearly going to try and take the game to them as well. There was a kind of awkward-ish moment where Manuel Neuer didn't really know who Arne Engels was, and he was kind of asking around. And I think he eventually got there with the help of his media officer next to him, but he didn't exactly speak much about Engels. And then he brought up Nicholas Kuhn, knowing him from the Bayern second team, which he probably didn't mean as a dig, but it kind of sounded a wee bit like that. So I was just thinking, Josh, go on Arnie, go on Nicholas, make sure they know who you are by the end of the evening.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if they'll have been listening to it, but if they were, there's certainly no bigger motivation than one of the best goalkeepers in the world basically saying he doesn't know you and doesn't know who you are, or in Nicholas Kuhn's case, he only played for the B team or whatever. So We've seen Nicholas can do it before against one of his former clubs, RB Leipzig, and I'm sure he'll be desperate, particularly against German opposition. We know that he's wanting to get into the German national team. That's been one of his key ambitions, and there'd be no better way to prove that he's able to do that to Julian Nagelsmann than going and put in a standout performance tonight. And I think as well, he's not really been on the boil as much as he has been throughout the season in recent weeks. So perhaps tonight could be the night where he catches fire, because everyone knows how explosive he can be. Alphonso Davies, I believe, is injured for the game. So probably will be Rafael Guerreiro at left back, I think. Mm-hmm. Could be an opportunity for Kun. I know Guerreiro's another top class international player, but you'd rather be playing against probably him than Davies, to be honest. So a big opportunity for Kun tonight, definitely.
I genuinely think that is an opportunity. I mean, he's been around for years. Portugal International, Dortmund, I think it was, for years. But I was reading some kind of Bayern fans, and they're not totally sold on their fullbacks, John. I think it's Guerreiro and probably Conrad Leimer at right back, who I kind of thought was more of a midfielder. So the wingers tonight, every position's important, but if it's, Maida and Kun on the wings, they really need to light it up.
Yeah, that's where Celtic's strengths are, clearly, especially this season. I think that front three will be interesting. Obviously, there's 4 very viable contenders for 3 positions. I'm kind of, you suggested there, Hamish, that you think it'll be Maeda and Kun and then Edith through the middle. I don't know if it's a preference, because it's kind of 50-50 call for me, but I think I'm leaning towards Rodgers going with that, because he talked about having balance in the game and balance in the team in his press conference yesterday, and that suggests to me that you'll utilise Maeda in that role, where he's obviously so effective in support of Greg Taylor. Jota, he talked about how he's still kind of building up to full match fitness. Is it a game to test the stamina of Jota? I'm not quite sure. I think there'll be plenty of Celtic fans who think that a front three of Jota, Maeda and Kun is a tantalising prospect, but I just don't think it's going to be the night for that tonight, and that Jota will come into the game in the second half. So we'll see how it pans out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the wingers are going to be so crucial, but that's the key for Celtic for me. That, and if Cal McGregor can have a strong game with the midfield too of Hatate and Engels, obviously that's going to drive Celtic forward.
I guess what we think about the front three is largely irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant. It's what Brendan Rodgers does. Josh, what do you think it's nailed on what he's going to do, or do you think he's got a thing going on in his mind now?
I think obviously Maeda scoring a hat-trick at the weekend certainly throws his hat in the ring to play up front against Bayern Munich. But just going back to John's comments there of what the manager said about kind of Jota's fitness in the press conference yesterday, makes me think that he's going to play Adamid up front and go with Maeda on the left and Nicholas Kun on the right. I know there's a lot of supporters that want Maeda through the middle. That would probably be my preference as well if Jota was up to full fitness. Another thing the manager has talked about is Jota's kind of understanding of Celtic's pressing patterns. It's not quite there yet. And particularly on a night like tonight, we've seen how crucial pressing can be for Celtic. You look at the second goal against RB Leipzig, that was one from a press. So you need guys who are going to be spot on in that and completely understand that. And if Jota's maybe not up to 100% speed with that, perhaps it's good to have him as an option to come on 60, 70 minutes when that Bayern Munich defence is tiring, because he has a tantalising prospect off the bench. And equally, Isaiah Maida on the left-hand side, we've seen what he can do. He strikes fear into the heart of the full-backs, and Adamid up front, he is in form at the minute as well. And he had a full 90 minutes of rest at the weekend, so he'll be raring to go up front.
What is it about that Jota, Maida, Kun three that excites you maybe more than the other three?
I just think it's the sheer pace of it. I mean, and the ball carrying ability. I know Adamid is a great footballer, but he's not particularly strikes you as someone who can take the ball and run with it 20, 30 yards or do a nice skill move to take it past a defender or something like that. It's just so much more, I would argue, eye-pleasing to have the front three of Jota, Maeda and Kun, and it's much more exciting, in my opinion. I know a lot of fans will have different opinions, but that's just my take on it. But I think it will be Maeda, Kun and Ida tonight.
Rest of the team, John, kind of sorted?
Yeah, I think for me, the rest of the team picks itself at the moment. Obviously, I mentioned there it's probably going to be Hatate and Engels with Cal McGregor in the midfield. And then the established back four in front of Schmeichel is clearly Johnston, Carter Vickers, Trusty and Taylor. Everyone, I think that rest at the weekend was important. Rodgers made a good call there, resting some of the starters tonight. And I think that that will serve Celtic well over the 90 minutes. I think Celtic will have to empty themselves across this 90 minutes. It's really that simple. There's no real thinking about the weekend or anything like that. These players have to put absolutely everything into this 90-minute performance because, as we know, and again, not to keep bringing back what Rodgers was saying yesterday, but he noted, one of the big points of progress that Celtic have made at this level over the last couple of years is that physicality and is that ability to be able to play at a higher level longer in these matches. Obviously, when Ange was here a couple of years ago, it felt like Celtic were really drifting out with these games by the hour mark. And I think Celtic have progressed, somewhat on that front. There was obviously occasions against Aston Villa where that wasn't true, and obviously tonight is another big test of it all. But that's going to be so crucial. It has to be a complete performance, 0 to 90 tonight. We can't, taper off on 60, 70 minutes because Bayern Munich just have the quality and they have that physicality and that athletic ability to really hurt us in those, closing stages of the match.
Okay, get through a few comments. Joe, I genuinely think we have a shot tonight. Look at our forward line. We could win this game. Sean, noticed Company was playing up the two-legged nature of the tie. Genuinely think he'd take a draw tonight. A draw is probably an all-right result for Bayern in terms of going through. Joe is in touch saying, totally agree with Josh. The fact that we're going into these games with tangible confidence is a bigger deal than we sometimes give credit for. Hazel reckons the fans have a big part to play. Fans do have a huge part to play, don't they? I mean, just getting that noise going, because Celtic Park, when it's rocking, like genuinely over the past couple of years in Europe, as I repeat what I said earlier, we've been really difficult to stop when the fans get going like that. So should be a good one. Looking forward to it, guys. The atmosphere is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it always is. And again, everyone knows that it will be, and everyone knows what it will be like. And it's about the players harnessing that energy. And like Callum McGregor saying at the weekend, it's also on the players to feed back into that with their own performance. It's a communication, and I really feel strongly about that. It's a communication. Sometimes that's overlooked, but it's a two-way conversation between the team and the crowd. The crowd inform the team inform the crowd, and that's when it all works perfectly. And that's what we want to see tonight. The players can respond, give the Celtic fans something to cheer for, something to fight for in the game, then it could be a really special night.
I think just on that fan aspect as well, the manager spoke about it at the end of the press conference at the Young Boys game, and speaking about how it was 0-0 going into the last 15 minutes and how that could have very easily, at least in recent years, became very much a nervy ending to that game with the crowd kind of on the edge of their seats, not particularly just nervous in general. And they weren't. They really got the team going, singing at the top of their voices, and that's what you want tonight. Again, you don't want the crowd to be nervous if it's 0-0 going into the last 15 minutes of the game. You really need the fans to be behind the team, and I think they will be. And that's one of the key positives as well that we've seen in recent weeks in this Champions League campaign, is that the crowd have been right behind the team. I'm not saying they weren't before, but there's been a real synergy, like you say, John.
It's been a bit different this year in the Champions League, though. When you look at the teams we've played in the league phase, from going in, last year, for example, you had like Atletico Madrid, Feyenoord, Lazio, three kind of pretty proven teams. Obviously the new formats and a very kind draw led to, I think, certainly 3 of the 4 home games where we were all really thinking Celtic would go and win. Young Boys, Bratislava, and even Club Brugge. And even the Leipzig game, as much as Leipzig were excellent, I think a lot of us felt we could go and win that game. Tonight, as much as, again, we feel we can, we're up against complete giants of European football, something we've not really had this season, certainly at Celtic Park. So the atmosphere, there's maybe not quite as much like expectation for Celtic. You have to go and win tonight. It's a different atmosphere. It's almost like we're up against the world tonight, and I think that's what brings out the best atmospheres.
Yeah, I think obviously Celtic play the vast majority of their games as heavy favourites. I think Celtic fans enjoy being the underdog from time to time. I think it brings out a bit of fire, a bit of adversity, and sometimes that can really feed into the Celtic players' performance. So, but that's a really important point Josh made there, because there was a real expectancy against Young Boys for Celtic to win that game, and it wasn't really going our own way for a portion of that match. But that last 10 minutes was so crucial, and I really firmly believe, and it's positive to hear Rodgers say it too. I firmly believe the crowd played a massive part in that last 10 minutes in getting Celtic pushing towards that goal again, and eventually getting the winner by any means necessary. Ultimately, the goal that sends us through as well. So, yeah, it's just going to be so crucial tonight.
Yeah, it's. I noticed a lot of people commented on that after the Young Boys game as well. So, as I keep saying, the atmosphere tonight is going to be a different one, I think, because I did see some people maybe for the first 3 European games saying it's not being kind of quite as loud as usual, and I think it's a bit harder to get up for a game when you're really expected to go and do it, as we find domestically quite a lot. So tonight, as you say, backs against the wall, it's going to be special. JD's had a great idea that Celtic should have done. I'm convinced should have just kept Maida suspension being overturned quiet until the teams were announced. Why didn't they do that?
That's a bit WWE. A surprise run in from the side with the steel chair.
Imagine the reaction if they'd have done that. It's going to be great to see Maida and the team. Jason reckons Maida will score tonight. Brown Warrior saying he thinks Sasha Boy trained as a right back yesterday. I did see that. I've just got a kind of predicted Bayern team here from one of their outlets in Germany. So it reads Neuer, Leimer, Stanisic, Upamecano, Guerrero, and then a midfield of Kimmich, Pavlovic. I must say I don't know much about Pavlovic, Musiala, and then a front 3 of Elise, Kane, and Sani. So who gives you the fear most there, Josh?
I think obviously the obvious names in attack, the likes of your Harry Kanes, who can probably score at any point in a game. Leroy Sané, Jamal Musiala is a really top talent as well. I think Bayern's strength is certainly in attack, and that for me underlines the fact that Celtic's backline is going to have to be at the top of the game tonight. Kasper Schmeichel's going to need a big performance against those guys. But at the back, I think, as I said at the top of the show, there certainly is weaknesses there in that Bayern backline. One of the reports in Germany yesterday was that Vincent Kompany was resting one of his first choice centre halves, and that is apparent in the team you just read out there. Kim Min-jae isn't in that. It looks like he's been dropped for the boys. Stanisic, who I don't even think is a central defender. When he came through at Bayern, he was a fullback, if I'm correct. So that's quite interesting. So the weaknesses certainly lie at the back, in my opinion, but at the top end of the park, they've got such talent, and that's without even mentioning people coming off the bench like I'm not sure if he's fit actually, Serge Gnabry. Thomas Muller on the bench as well will probably be. So they've got so much talent. So just for me, Celtic backline will need to be at the top of the game.
Yeah. Referee John is Jesus. Jesus is a ref tonight. Or Jesus Gil Manzano, obviously Spanish, has presided over one Celtic match before, and it was the night we beat Anderlecht, Vincent Kompany's former team, 3-0 in Brussels, and that was in the same group as Bayern Munich. So it's weird the way that things work out. But a good omen, other than the result, his name being Jesus is pretty cool.
Yeah. You were reading out the team there, and I was just thinking, they're not exactly Queen's Park, are they? That's all I'll say on that.
Right, okay. There is another game today I just want to chat about a wee bit, because Josh, you're going to be across this, because people hopefully know that the B team have also advanced in the UEFA Youth League, and they play not Bayern Munich, because the competitions kind of go off in different direction. They play Red Bull Salzburg. Is that 3 p.m. today? No,
1 p.m.
Sorry, I've got midnight written down here, Aussie time, so I was trying to work it out.
Yeah,
to know on top of the time difference and all of that. That's in Austria as well, is it?
Yeah, so it's in Austria. It's a one-legged knockout tie. So if Celtic win, they're through to the last 16. It's a last 32 tie. The UEFA Youth League. Should be noted that Salzburg got to the semi-finals of the competition last season, I believe. So they are a good side. But a lot of the young Celtic players that fans will be familiar with are in Austria with the team. The likes of Daniel Cummings, Francis Turley are all over there. So it's a strong side. Celtic have sent over to play Salzburg. So really looking forward to it, actually. 1 p.m. kick-off. It's always a nice taster for the later on action in the day when you watch these type of games. And it is a high level, so I would urge anyone who's about today at 1 o'clock, tune in. It's on Salzburg's YouTube channel for free. So Celtic not streaming it. It's not on TNT either, but free to watch on Salzburg's YouTube channel. So a good opportunity to see the boys in action.
Busy old day for you guys then, across 2 different matches, and you'll have all this stuff for the big game later on as well, John.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna tune into that youth league game as well, just to have a wee look at how the the under-19s of the B team are doing. It's not the change in format also worked out well for the B team. It turned out it wasn't a full 8 games in their league phase. I think it was 6 games. But it worked out because they don't often get to this stage of to a knockout tie. So it'll be exciting. Now, one-legged knockout tie is quite an exciting prospect. So we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, and as I say, Josh is on that for the site for us, and then Ryan and Tony will be on the live shows this evening, and we'll have full coverage of the big game across the YouTube channel and the website. All the reaction from both camps, from Rodgers, from players, from Bayern, will be all over it late tonight and early tomorrow morning.
Good stuff. Right, we've got a few minutes left, so I'll go through a few more comments. We can just chat a wee bit more about the game. People bringing players up. Carly's talking about Joshua Kimmich, who again, I mean, it's really like a hell of a squad they have, isn't it? Players like Kimmich who are just so experienced, really won't be fazed by the atmosphere tonight. But I'm kind of not really in a mood to admire opposition players tonight at all, and I hope no one is. I hope it's booing opposition players personally, really kind of getting into them. And are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to see people getting applauded off at the end of the games, do you? And the opposition teams, when they get subbed off, imagine Harry Kane scoring 2 goals and him getting applauded. I don't think that's going to happen. It really needs to be a hostile atmosphere. You don't want, like we said earlier, these guys to be coming and enjoying Celtic Park. You want them to be coming and feeding Celtic Park, and when they come off that pitch thinking, oh, I never want to go there and play there again. So you want the guys to feel the hostile atmosphere and not be applauded like has happened in recent years, I think.
3,000 Bayern fans there as well tonight, John. Big away support, which is pretty impressive given that the game was only announced 10 days ago or so. Yeah,
and it'll be the same when Celtic go over, thankfully, knowing that they can get tickets for Alliance Arena. Yeah, it's going to be good atmosphere in both games, I think. I think that both clubs are both proud clubs, both have tradition in Europe, both have tradition as the dominant team in their respective countries. And I think that really sets up a nice knockout tie. You're right, you're talking about football friendships and all that. Knockout ties aren't the thing for that. If you're going to do that, it would be a group stage behaviour at best. But these knockout ties are just so crucial and so exciting. And actually, I know it's not likely that Celtic are going to go through, right? But I think there's a shot at it. There's a shot at it, and you want to see Celtic of the best version of themselves. And that's fine with me. And as long as we can do that, make it uncomfortable for Bayern, give the team themselves as much backing as possible, as much confidence as possible to go and express themselves. Because I think they do have the attacking quality to fashion a couple of chances across this 90 minutes. I think that is undoubted. Regardless of anything else, Bayern might be too much for our defence, but I really think we can create a few chances against them. And then again, it's about having that composure and confidence in front of goal to stick it away. And thankfully, all 3 of the guys who we think will be starting in that attacking line tonight, Maeda, Ida and Kuhn, have all been in scoring form of late, so that bodes well as well.
One thing I would point out is you don't want the tie to be dead when you go to Germany. You certainly want the tie to still be alive, and that's something the manager spoke about, so just underlines how crucial getting a result tonight is.
Yeah, no away goals as well. People might just need a wee reminder of that, because I think we've only played one other knockout tie since the away goals were scrapped, and it was Bodo Glimt. So just a reminder tonight that a 0-0 draw is the same as a 4-4 draw. I think we'd rather a 4-4, wouldn't we? So, that's going to be good. And Maestro saying the players are experienced in the Champions League. We've made progress. We learned from Dortmund. Yeah, I noticed Neuer bringing up the fact that, I think it was Neuer saying, Celtic are a weird team. They beat Leipzig 3-1, but they lost 7-1 to Dortmund. So we're trying to work out which Celtic is the real Celtic, which I guess he's got a point there. But let's show them the real Celtic tonight.
Yeah, show them on the pitch, and no collapses tonight. That's all I'm asking for. Just give the best account of yourselves as possible, Celtic. That's what we're wanting.
Right, the talking has stopped, and we're just look forward to tonight. It's it's a big one. I think the team are capable of doing something tonight, but you're up against a top team. Guys, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you both, I'm sure, pretty soon. Tony and Ryan tonight, you were saying, John, so they'll be on. Yeah. Good stuff. People can check that out as well. B team, as I say, are in action in the UEFA Youth League in Austria against Salzburg, 1 p.m. Celtic versus Bayern Munich tonight is 8 p.m. So yeah, great stuff, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back very soon.